All right, so we just finished recording episode 50. How do you feel about today's episode?
I think that my favorite part of today's episode was understanding the root cause of excess potential energy. And that's that lack of awareness, self-worth, and a belief that you really do need to try so hard. And that's mind-blowing for me.
Totally. And also how everything just tied together. It was like, whoa, like this is a single like philosophy here, and it was very cohesive. So I hope everybody enjoys episode 50. Welcome to Enter the Mind, episode 50, the most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind. Today we'll be talking about the past 50 episodes. It's been about a year since we recorded episode 1. And so we've evolved a lot. I'm curious in regards to listeners, how you guys might have evolved as well with your minds, with your thinking, with your psychology. And so be sure to put those in the comments below. But Kyra and I will also share how we've evolved by talking about the mind for over a year now on a more or less weekly basis. I'll let you get started with it. How is your mind different today than it was a year ago?
Well, I think that the biggest change in my mind from a year ago to today would be that I've really, really matured. Like my brain has really just started to like mature. But by mature, I mean, I guess I grasp things better. And I allow myself to grasp them. Like I understand that like this is a part of growing up, and it's okay to know things and it's okay to grasp things. And that's definitely something that I did not have a year ago. Like I had my confidence and I had, my ideas and stuff, but like the more I grew in this year, the more I am finally able to really be grounded in my maturity, be grounded in my age. And that's, I think, probably the biggest mindset shift that I've had.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find that popping up in your day-to-day life? Like, can you tell just by, like, what's an example of how your life is different as a result?
I guess you could say that I feel sexier. I feel I definitely feel sexier, and I definitely feel like I can hold my own now. And like I could hold my own now before, but as I was holding my own, like I was like really shaky about it, and I was like I was forcing it, which is great because now I'm like this today, but I was shaking in my fucking boots when I used to hold myself together. And now I feel sexy and confident, and I feel almost like more human. I feel like, ladies, if you're listening, I don't know if this has happened to you as well, but I feel like the parts of me now are more womanly. Like my boobs aren't like little girl boobs anymore. Like they're more womanly now, and like my legs are more womanly. Like I feel more here and more womanly. I feel like I'm allowing my maturity to seep out of me, and it makes me feel sexier. It makes me attract better men that I want, like a man that actually sees what a woman is. It helps me attract better people that are kind of on that same level as me. And that helps a lot.
That's super cool. I can kind of feel what you mean because I don't know, you post a lot on your IG, right? And like pictures of you at the beach and stuff, and kind of there's definitely a comfort. It appears to be a comfort that you have with your own body, which is definitely sort of lacking in today's world. I think among the female population for various reasons. But yeah, I think that you've got like a nicely like intertwined, almost like whole person sort of, it's hard to kind of express it, but it's like a well-roundedness almost, or like the reason I said intertwine is because like some people, it's like either or. It's like, okay, they're either really smart intellectual and completely out of touch with their bodies, or they're like, really rocking their body and fitness obsessed and everything. But it's like you can't have like an interesting conversation with them because they're just thinking about their body and that's it or whatever. So it's kind of rare to see like the nice, like, I mean, it's a full human. That's why you said your exact words were more human. And I think that's a goal for like everybody is like, I've always been a fan of this term, like full humanness, which I first read through like Abraham Maslow and the humanist psychologists. This idea of like being a full human being and being like all aspects of yourself, all your chakras open, not, half of them are open and then half of them are closed because of trauma and whatnot that you never got over or lack of confidence or whatever. But a person has a certain radiance when all their chakras are open and there's just energy flowing through them all. When their sexuality chakra, right, the sacral chakra is open, glowing, as well as third eye chakra, as well as the heart chakra. They have, they're experiencing feeling, they care about others, they're compassionate. Like when all of them are open and flowing and stuff, it's that's I don't know, I feel like that's the goal.
I definitely do. Thank you for noticing that I am in my body more. I'm really glad to hear that you saw that as well. So how do you think that your mindset has changed from a year ago to today in the biggest way?
Well, I can say that confidence as well has improved. Confidence in like my ability to manage thoughts, or seeing thoughts as kind of like more minor, as more of like an inconvenience or something I have to deal with versus something huge that could bring about my downfall. So what's an example, right? On Sunday, I had a hockey game to go to, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, my nose was runny, right? And I was sniffling, and I was like, oh crap. First of all, I'm angry because I'm not, I don't want to go to hockey because, now I have symptoms. But then second, I was like, well, what if I actually do have COVID? Then I'm going to have to be out of work for like a week. And, there's all these projects I have to do. And just your mind starts to go, right? And it's then that creates panic. It creates an emotion. So my immediate response was, I was like, okay, so how do I see this as like machinery and how do I just deal with this, right? And how do I think logically about this? So, okay, well, what's scenario one? Scenario one is it's just a random, stuffy and runny nose, and I don't have COVID, and I'll get a test and it'll be negative, and then I'll just go back to work the next day. And I'm like, okay, so let me plan for that scenario, but let me also plan for this other scenario, which is I go get my COVID test, it comes back positive, and then I'm sick for a week or whatever. And right, so I'm starting to plan for these different scenarios. And in the course of doing that logical planning, if this, then that, else, if this happens, then that, right? And it's almost like computer programming. When I started to plan for these things, all of a sudden my emotions changed, and I was no longer in like some sort of panic. I was back into this mode of controlling my life, planning, right? Taking action, thinking ahead, not being the victim of circumstances, but being the creator of circumstances. And so these little things, it gives me a confidence that no matter what comes up in life, no matter what like little unexpected thing comes up, I know that I can manage it because I see the mind. And this has come out of our 50 episodes of talking about the mind and psychology. Like I see the mind as like just this little tiny machine that I can tweak when I want to tweak it, right? Like sometimes the machine might act up, right? It's like, it's like some sort of machine that like might start beeping and you're like, what the heck? Like, hey, shut up already, right? But then, we're not terrified of machines. We're not like thinking, oh my gosh, I hope the copy machine at the office doesn't give me a horrible week or something. Like we're not terrified of these machines because we can control them. You just unplug them or you just, fix them or whatever. I think we need to start having that mentality when it comes to our mind, instead of being terrified of the mind. What's the face you're making?
I can't stand you. You come up with the best things. I mean, for all our listeners, did you just hear that? Like, come on now. Like, you don't go in and be afraid of the copy machine because you're scared that it's going to like run your life or something. Like, I think it's an amazing insight to look at your mind like a piece of machinery. I think that's gold right there, listeners. Take it home.
Thank you, Kyra.
Of course, Robert.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've started to think about your mind as machinery over the past year. I don't know, how have you related to your mind differently, if at all, over the last year, you think?
I think that I've given myself something that's recently come up is to just give myself space. Now, there's something that goes on with me, right? Okay, so I'll share this. Something really big that's changed, that's happened. And it's something that I did within my mind because I was so fucking sick of it. Now, I'm such a firm believer. I genuinely don't know if this belief is hurting me or benefiting me, but I'm such a firm believer that you will get the fuck up and do something once you get pissed off enough that it's in your life. Once you experience it one too many fucking times, you're like, oh, like I need to get this out of my life right now, right? And you start going, you start doing that shit. And a year ago today, I was still living with my mom at home. And it was just a really toxic environment. And I weighed 145 pounds solid. And my mom, she would do like these isogenic things and she would fast for 2 days. So I was helping her, she was helping me. We had kind of a little good system going, but it wasn't working. I wasn't happy. There was something within my mind that wasn't happy, right? So I finally left home and I just agreed. I was like, I'm going to stop weighing myself. I'm so sick of looking on the fucking scale every morning and seeing 143 and 145 when I want to weigh 120. I'm so fucking sick of this and it's not happening fast enough. And I've been at it for like 2 months. So why is my fucking weight the same? What is going on? What's happening? So as soon as I left home and I moved on my own and I was in my own space and my energy, I made a decision that I wasn't going to weigh myself, number one. Number two, that I was going to stop caring about my weight. And number three, that I would just work on my shape. I'm just working on my shape right now. Now look at this, viewers, look at this, right? I stepped on a scale yesterday for the very first time in 1 fucking year. Guess how much I weigh? I weigh 120 fucking 7. I weigh 120 fucking 7. And you know what? I don't even care. I genuinely don't. I don't care about my weight anymore. But I weigh 127 and I knew I would fucking get there. And something that really gets me is that we always know when we're going to get somewhere. Like we always know when we're going to get somewhere. And within this year, all I had to do was let go of the one thing, the two things, the three things that I knew were holding me back from getting what I wanted. So I think that within this year, I think that another lesson that I've done was, I guess, not to entirely care. Like, I feel like when you're so obsessed with the outcome and so like obsessed with what's going to happen and you need this to happen, it makes it happen slower. And I feel like once I just like said, fuck it, like I really don't even care about my body. Like I know I'm going to get there. I'm just going to do the work and I'm going to say, fuck it. You know, I finally got there. I finally eased up. I finally allowed my happiness to come in. And now, because of that, number one, not only am I very comfortable with my body, but like you said in the beginning, Robert, I was one of those people who couldn't hold a conversation because all I cared about was my body. And that's why I usually meet men who just want to fuck me because I'm so in my body. I care so much about my body. And when you meet somebody, you know, and it's like, you know, they got to be attracted to your mind too, right? So I think that, I guess, one of the mind shifts that had happened was, number one, to just step into my happiness, do the work, and give a fuck about the outcome. I don't give no fuck about the outcome. Like shit. Because you know what? I thought to myself, if I'm gonna be fat, if I'm gonna weigh like 160 pounds, in my opinion, that's fat for me. If somebody else likes it, rock it, baby. You're not fat. I love you. You know, but me, 160 pounds is fucking fat for me, right? But I thought to myself, fuck it. If I weigh 160, it's probably what God wants for me, and I'm just gonna do it. You know, so I'll rock either outcome. So I did that with you as well. You know, like I guess we kind of did, you know, the same thing. It's like you got to plan for both of those outcomes and know that you are going to be able to handle either outcome. And I think that, yeah, so oh my God, that's crazy. Do you see how that just all tied together? I think that mine was the exact same as yours, now that I put it into words.
Well, I was going to tie it together even more with one of our past episodes. We talked about the this concept of going after your goals like you're going to the mailbox to grab your mail.
Mm-hmm.
And full credit for that quote or a concept to Vadim Zeland, author of Reality Transurfing. But the whole point of that is to remove excess potential. When you describe going on the scale every day and looking down and seeing the 145 and getting like angry about it or wanting it so bad, it was, to me, sounding like the concept of excess potential.
Okay.
And which is like just having excess energy around it, kind of like more than is necessary. But it sounded like you learned to detach or get rid of that when what did I write down? You said, I don't care about my weight anymore. Now that you're at the ideal weight, ironically, you don't care about it anymore. You said do the work and not care about the outcome. And that sort of detachment from the outcome is, I think, in alignment with this concept. Like, that's another insight from this past 50 episodes for me, is just this awareness of the invisible, the awareness of the energy of the mind, right? It's not just all just like physical objects. There's energy, and your thoughts are energy, and we have to observe like the flow of the energy, right? Because the energy behaves according to certain laws, just like everything else, just like other physical objects, that they fall because of gravity, or right? Energy also follows laws, because you know what else is energy? The cell phone signals from the tower to my phone, that is a type of electromagnetic energy. Sunlight is energy, right? UV wavelength. There's energy always around us. There's energy always happening, but we're not used to thinking about our mind. You know, in psychology class, all of my undergraduate psychology courses, we never talked about energy. We never talked about energy flow. We never talked about energy work, and we never talked about any of that stuff. But to me, it's like, how are you leaving out the one thing that's like most practical for navigating daily life and the struggles of daily life and interactions and everything? So anyways, back to the main point though, of you got rid of excess potential, right? You went after it. And to me, that's like, that's what I'm excited about for this coming year, is going after goals, not with not with my old method, which is like, all right, I really want this so bad. I'm going to write down my strategy. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It's like, that's too much. That's too much tension. That's the wrong type of energy, right? That's like if I tell you to hold on to an egg, and you hold the egg so tightly that you crack it, and then the egg yolk starts to pour down your hands and everything. And I was like, I just said, hold it. Like, I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold it better than anybody else has ever held it before. And and it's like crack. And it's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're squeezing too hard, right? It's too much I'm just asking you to hold an egg. I'm not asking you to lift 500 pounds. You don't need that much grip strength for it. But I think that's the pitfall for everybody, is that they go around grabbing eggs in life, like they're grabbing a 500-pound weight. And when you do that, with a literal egg, then the end result is you just get egg yolk all over your hands. But if you do that with your goals, the outcome is much worse. It's a life full of frustration, and a life full of, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? I'm trying so hard, every day I'm putting in effort for blah, 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 and I'm not getting anywhere. And it's kind of like that frustration you had stepping on the scale every day. It's like inappropriate obsession. I mean, I'm sure there's obsession where probably the good obsession is obsession with doing the work, right? But the bad obsession would be the obsession with the outcome, regardless of doing the work. What are you laughing so much at?
Sometimes you blow my mind, and I gotta laugh at it because it's so good. It's so good. I completely agree with the excess potential energy, and I feel like that fucking egg explained it so well. You go, I just told you to hold it, man. Over here squeezing a fucking egg, and I'm picturing somebody, and it reminds me of me. It makes me laugh so fucking hard because it's like, oh my God, I'm so funny. Why am I doing this? Like, what the fuck? Why? Like, nobody told me to do that. So that makes me laugh really hard. So far, I wanted to touch base on the lessons that I've written down. So between me and Robert, so far, I've written down allowing yourself to mature and being at ease with the maturity in your body, being at ease with the life that pumps through your body. I think that helps you gain a lot of confidence in your human form, because I think that one of the hardest things to do today, the reason why people don't get into manifestation is because we are infinite beings. We are immortal beings, maybe not our humans, but our souls are. And when we get into manifestation, etc., we start to remember that in another world that we lived in, everything happened like that. Everything happened like that. We could think, we could do something, it happened. Here on Earth, no, that's not the way it happens. We need to get to know our human form. We are not just souls anymore. We are humans. And I think that allowing ourselves to mature and being okay with our bodies can help us push ourselves so much farther in this earth, in this life that we are in right now. So the second one that we have is planning for all scenarios, which you heard that both Robert and I actually did go through. And it's also something that I heard in this one book. It was a really good book. It's one of those older books, very popular. I can't remember the name, but in it, he says, when something is going wrong, write it out on paper, write out the first outcome. Like say, it's raining outside and I was supposed to go to a wedding and the wedding is still going on. So she expects me to be there, but I just got my fucking hair done and it's going to get all wet, So you write that down. You write down that problem. And then you say, what am I going to do if this happens? And then you say, well, what am I going to do if, there is a roof over the wedding, and my hair actually is fine. So those help you put things into perspective a lot more. And planning for all scenarios, as you can see, brings a lot of ease to Robert's mind and my mind. So the third one is finding your happiness. And I wrote this down because it's something that I didn't entirely mention, but it means just finding your happiness. And I hear this a lot within people where, say they have $3,000 saved up, and maybe they're saving something for something really good, right? But they also really want to go on a 3-day vacation to Utah. And they say, yeah, but like I can't. And it just kind of sucks because like I'm kind of stuck here and like I'm earning money and shit. And my favorite thing to tell those people is use some of that money to go on a vacation. Because if you are unhappy, if you are in a living situation that is unhappy, if you're still living with your parents or you're living with a friend or you're living with a partner and you're unhappy, that is going to cause a lot of fucking on your life, and you need to get out of it. You need to find your happiness. When you find your happiness, other things can flow in. Once I found my happiness, look at me, I shed weight. I shed weight. I'm happier. I'm moving farther in my business. I'm meeting really good people because I found my happiness, right? Now, the fourth one is let go of what is holding you back. What is holding me back, right? When I was looking on that scale, man, I knew it was fucking holding me back. I had to let it go. When I was living with my parents and being in that toxic environment, as much as it fucking hurt to let my mom go, I had to let her go. Look at that. I'm happy. So, and then the fifth one that I have written down is the excess potential, which is Robert's method that he's always saying on here, that he mentions a lot, which is great because it's always bringing our minds back to it. Love that, Robert. And that's, how about you explain that one? Because I think you explain it best.
Excess potential or excess energy is when you're, when there's too much thought energy from your end regarding a topic or something you're trying to accomplish. And so the opposite of that would be like his great example of like going after your goals, like you're going to the mailbox, right? When you go to the mailbox, you don't have excess potential. You're not overthinking it. You're not thinking, you're not trying too hard. It's like, your actions and your efforts are appropriate to the task at hand.
Now, something actually just popped into my head. So I thought about, because when you're putting excess energy on things, when you're putting excess emotion and exerting too much energy on something, when you're just going to the mailbox, I think that when we do that, it's because of a lack of awareness on what this object is that we're going for, or who this person is that we're walking up to. We have a lack of awareness on what or who they actually are, right? So it's like walking up to a bodybuilder, right? And you start talking about politics, right? Maybe this bodybuilder isn't into politics, right? So you're putting all this energy and you're like, I'm going to talk about politics with this guy and I'm going to get it and I'm going to get it and I'm going to get it, right? But you're putting all this energy for something that's not even aligned, right? Now, say he is a bodybuilder and maybe, but he's just a normal human. So why are you walking up to this person or object, placing it on such a high fucking pedestal, placing it on something that's going to cause so much energy to erupt in you when it's really not that hard. You just need to know what you're going for and know the amount of energy that you need to put into it. Like when you're walking to the scale, you have all this energy and you're like, your brain is kind of vibrating and you have all this fucking energy, but for what? You're just walking to the scale, So I think that caused something. I don't think I explained it that right, but I think that it definitely triggered something new.
Yeah, it's kind of like the excess potential of desire and expectation. I think there's a lot of excess potential with expectation. You go into something and you're like, you have this huge expectation, and it might not go that way, and then it leads to upset. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I think that lack of awareness. So I think that excess potential and excess energy not only has to do with the lack of awareness about what you're going to do, like lack of presence. So it's a lack of awareness about what you're going to, and it's a lack of presence because you're not actually here. You have something else in mind of what this is when you're strewing it, because it's not what it is, number one. And number two, I think that excess potential / energy also has to do with your self-worth, because you're exerting all of this energy because you think that you're not going to be able to get it unless you try really, really, really fucking hard. And it's like, you don't need to do that, baby. Like, you are a shining gem. Like, we got this. So I think that also has a lot to do with excess potential.
That's huge what you just said. I think that a lot of the excess potential can result from a low self-esteem or a low, like a sense of inferiority, because then you have this feeling of that you have to overcompensate, right? The other thing I wanted to say on that is, I think you're right. It's about lack of awareness, and part of that lack of awareness is not being aware of the pendulums. And the pendulum is another term from that same author, Vadim Zeland. So full credit to Vadim Zeland there. But the pendulum is, it's like when you go into work, right? And I experience this now because I'm doing a lot of, at my day job, I'm doing a lot of desk work at the moment, right? A lot of emailing and things like that. So when it comes to awareness, you open that email box and then you're scanning through these emails and you're seeing, like, is there this email that, you know, you're kind of in this ongoing debate with somebody, or you're trying to get something done and they keep giving you roadblocks to it or whatever. And it's so easy to get pulled into that, right? And it's like, and so when it comes to, and this, I'm going to tie it all together here, because to your body awareness stuff. And it will, so I'm reading my emails, right? I'm watching very carefully my own mind and its reactions to my inbox. And it sounds so silly and so trivial, but that's because it is silly and trivial. That's the truth of it. But people forget about that. They get caught up in the drama of it because they let the pendulum hook them, right? This pendulum of the workplace. And you realize, like, hey, this is just a job. There's a lot to life outside of this, but people get so pulled into this drama. And Vadim Zeland had a great quote. He said, when you go to work, give of your hands and your head, but not your heart. Give of your hands and your head, but not your heart, because the work pendulum will steal as much energy as it can. And so you don't want to give it from your soul. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a little bit different if you're kind of running your own business and you're kind of putting your heart and soul into it. But if you're just working for the man or whatever, like, you know, yes, give of your hands and your head, right? Get the job done, do the work, but maybe don't give so much of your soul and heart, because you're ultimately giving that to a pendulum, to this sort of energy system that's going to just take your energy. I wish we could keep going for another hour, but I think we should probably, let me call this my final thought for the day. I just want to say that with, like, the body tension, right? It manifests in the smallest things. Like if I'm listening to somebody talk about something that could potentially frustrate me, right? I'm watching to see if any tension gets created in my body, right? Like if I'm sitting like this, you know, with my hand on the chair, and if my hand starts to like go like that, if my hand starts to close, like these tiny, what I would call like micro tensions, right? Or even if I'm trying to empathize with the person and I'm making a face like, you know, like to kind of show them like, yes, I understand how frustrating that is. That's still a tension that's occurring in my body, my energy system. And the mind and body, as we talked about in a previous episode, are not all that different. There's constant ongoing communication, constant energy flow between what we think of as the mind and the body. And so any tension in the body, closing your fists, or, you know, or what do you call it? Like lowering your eyebrows, right? Any tension like that, that produces a change at the level of energy, and it's going to affect your emotions. They've done studies on this where they actually force people to physically smile like this, like for like 60 seconds straight. And every single time they report that they feel better afterwards, which is completely ridiculous. There's no reason they should feel better, except for the fact that there's constant ongoing communication between body and mind, right? It affects the level of energy. So that's another thing I've been noticing. Like I'm just constantly monitoring my own physiology, and I don't catch everything, but I try to catch a lot. So, all right, that's enough said from me. What are your closing thoughts?
I'll close with two things. And the first is that, yeah, I mean, I love the whole smile tactic, and it's because there are some things that can be manipulated here on Earth to be different, but there are also some things that are 100% in stone. Like when you're smiling, you're happy. Like you are happy, and your body knows that. Those are the like laws of nature, if you want to say that, like if you're smiling, your body is physically smiling. It's exerting that energy. Good things are going to come back to you. It's the laws of nature. So I think that's that could be applied with like taking action as well. Like your body knows that when it's taking action, that energy is going to be cycled back, and it's going to go into your mind, etc. And that's how momentum comes. So I think that was great to mention. And I also wanted to say, for anyone here listening, you awesome humans, if you are in a relationship or, living with your parents, or you have a friend, I want to encourage you to, if you want to let them go, I encourage you to let them go. And I think that the hardest part about letting somebody go, especially with family, is that you'll feel guilty or you'll be judged. But just let that person go. If you have somebody in mind, let them go, because you are bringing them a great deal of joy, a great deal of new life, and you are bringing yourself fucking freedom and happiness, and you will find your happiness just a little bit more, or just a whole fuck lot, once you let that person go. So take it from me.
Awesome. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And if it does, you can go ahead and send us a message on Instagram. And Kyra, your Instagram again is
at Soul Design Future.
And mine is at Existence First. We both respond to all of our messages. So yeah, go ahead and message us.